It's season 2 of Rabbit Holes with Aaron. We're going to be trying some new things. We've got enhanced Rabbit Holes with Aaron episodes on Patreon. Welcome to Rabbit Holes with Aaron. I'm Aaron, and today with me on the show I have a very special guest, my cousin Josh. He is a registered nurse and, gosh, you said MBS coordinator? Is that
Yeah,
right?
MDS. Yeah, MDS. D is in dog.
MDS.
It it stands for minimum data sets. I'm responsible for getting all the assessments and charting done so that we get reimbursed by insurance and Medicare and Medicaid.
Ah, thank you. Well, welcome to the show. Thank you for explaining that.
Thanks for having me. Good.
So we talked about a different question, and I think I'm trying to remember it. What's a question you've been carrying around that you haven't found an answer to yet?
Yeah, that is the one that we discussed. So I I have a couple of ways to answer that question because up until recently, when I got my nursing degree, it's like that question would have been, "What are you doing with your life?" Which I feel like I've answered
Hmm.
because now I'm in nursing and I love that. But now that like the deeper question, so when you answer one question, the same question often becomes unanswerable again. And so first it was, "What are you going to do
Hmm.
with your life?" And we finally figured that at the age of 45. And then next, I think that comes next is, how do you how do you get your self actualization? Like, how do you come into your own sense of purpose? Right? It just turned into more questions. It's like, I'm happy with what I'm
Gotcha.
doing now, but where does the other stuff come from? Or how do we get there?
Self-actualization. I don't know what that technically means, but I think from the word that I would imagine it means understanding who you are in a fuller sense.
Yeah, and how do you understand who you are, and how do you kind of like how do you center inside yourself? Like how did you get there? It's like the top of Maslow's hierarchy for what people need, right? At the
Hmm.
bottom is like food and shelter and water, and then it's like safety and security, and then it's like love and affection or whatever, and then it's self actualization. It's just like the top of excuse me. How do you get to where you feel like you need to be, like where you feel secure, where you feel that you're doing what you need to do, really?
Hmm. It seems like an identity question.
Yeah, yeah. It all comes together that way, I think. Sometimes
Do
you
you
got to
have any
figure out.
theories about answers?
I've got a few theories about answers. One of which is, uh, I don't know. I feel like finally now that I'm meeting everyone's basic needs at home, or like that we're comfortable. Now I feel like I can settle in more comfortably to myself because I'm not
Yeah.
scrambling or worrying about everything else.
I actually, well, I wonder if that's a question everybody tries to answer. You know, that everybody's in the process of trying to answer right now. Whether they're trying by murdering other people, I'm sorry to take it to that extreme, or whether they're trying by, philanthropic, philanthropist? Yeah, whether they're being a philanthropist, or whether they're being a serial killer. Maybe they're all trying to figure out who they are and what makes them happy and what makes them tick and how do they elevate their experience. Well, I don't know. I don't like to think about serial killers that way. But But most
Well, I
people,
mean,
I think, and go ahead.
I think everybody's got to live their best life, right? Serial killers included. I think you're right, though. I think everybody does try to answer that question. I think you're absolutely right about that. And whether you're a philanthropist or a nun or a serial killer or a bus driver, that's what everybody's trying to do.
Yeah, yeah. I've been answering that question in a different kind of way, but I bet you'd get it. I bet you'd get it. Um, I call it growing by subtracting,
Yeah,
and
I can understand
the
that. Yeah.
yeah, the image. Well, what it's meant is cutting ties and ending ending a long period of waiting for people to accept an invitation to come into my life, whether it's a
Hmm.
text that was never answered or maybe an email or there's so many people I was trying to be a good friend with, to be in the middle of a good friendship with, but I couldn't take it there myself. Even if I checked on them every couple months or every couple weeks, even if I called, even if I texted, like I was the only one holding up that friendship. And
Right.
so I've really been going through and editing and pruning a lot of those, and actually finding a lot more time and a lot more freedom and a lot more effort back to myself to figure out what to do with. And of course, then I ask that question again: how, what am I doing? How can I? What do I do now to actualize myself more? To to realize who I am more. Who am I now? Because a part of who I was holding on and trying to make those all those relationships work. And so, yeah. So I'm trying to grow by subtracting.
Right. Yeah. I especially find it somewhat hard to be present with too many people. So I've kept my friend group like fairly small. The people that I
Yeah.
actually talk to and hang out with on a regular basis is probably 4 or 5 people, because I
Yeah.
find it very difficult to maintain solid relationships with more than that many people. Like, there's a lot of people I talk to a couple of times a year, old friends that you see once in a while, and it's good to see them. But as far as like regularly engaging with people, I'm in it for 4 or 5 people at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, to give you a more detailed picture,
Hmm.
I would go through all my texts for the last 3 years and look at people that I hadn't heard back from, and I would reach out to them again and tell them I was thinking about them, or I would call them. And I have run into a lot of people in my travels. 20 years in the Marine Corps, another 6 years working on my master's degree in college part time. Became a president of a fraternity, so I knew all kinds of veterans that were going to that same college. So I have come in contact, but I guess I don't know if it was my upbringing or like kind of a pseudo Christian thing that I felt like every person I ever came in contact with that I had to be a good friend to. And so I mean, I would be bored with nothing to do, and I would go through my emails for the last few years. I would go through my text messages for the last few years, and I'd say, I wonder how this person is doing, and I'd send them another text. So it really wasn't what I would consider a good relationship, because I think a good relationship, not to be too transactional, but it's kind of like a barter. It's like an exactly fair barter. Here I have like a question and answer, or like an invitation and accepting the invitation. Like they're equal
Right.
parts. What do you think?
I agree with you. I think if you have a friendship that you're the only one bringing anything up and you're the only one contacting anyone, that's not a friendship. That's a one-sided dopamine experience for the other person.
Yeah.
You're making them feel needed and wanted. You're receiving none of that attention yourself. That's not a relationship. That's chasing a crush in high school or getting friend zoned or whatever. It's
Yeah.
unreciprocated.
It's kind of, yeah,
and
it's imbalanced. Yeah,
people deserve better than that typically.
yeah, yeah. So you can see when I when I say growing by subtracting, it's really I'm not really letting anything go. It's just like I'm giving myself the gift of more time, more effort, more energy.
I really agree. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Um, like I said, I've done that too. I didn't really have a process. I just one day was like, there is a lot of negative influence on my time and ability, and I just went way with you. And I did it
Yeah,
very coldly. I didn't. I just quit talking to people. I
yeah,
just like if you were text messaging me or bothering me or whatever, and I decided that you weren't one of the people I wanted to be bothered with, I just stopped.
yeah,
And that was actually a fun
yeah,
process because I watched the text messages and voicemails kind of peter off,
yeah.
and just like, that is the slow death of a relationship I was no longer interested in.
Exactly. And lately it's been, well, it's like any transition, and it's even like any good thing. It's really good. It's really healthy to chop off the dead branches of a tree or to prune it so that it has more fruit or whatever. It's really healthy. But then, I've been asking this question about very similar to what you're asking. Who am I now? Now that I'm not carrying all this extra stuff. Okay, what do I do with my time? And I still have a habit of looking at my cell phone. No Facebook, no text messages, no emails. And then another 5 minutes later, I'm looking at my cell phone. No text messages. So I'm still have the old habits that I'm working on, but I cut all the people free.
Yeah, my biggest thing lately has been like because my work, my email is constant and text messages are constant, just the nature of my job.
Yeah.
So I find myself just even increasing screen time, and not even because I'm doing anything else. Because like I went on vacation to Randy's, as you know, Randy and Linda's, and when I came home, I hadn't touched my laptop in 4 days or something like that. So I come home, I get to work, I open my computer, and I check my email. I had like 200 and something emails over that weekend. That well,
Wow.
I mean, not just specifically for me, but as part of the management team, there's just that many, and I was like, "You got to be kidding me!"
Wow. Yeah. Well, the good news, as I have let all that go, it was kind of quiet and it was kind of hard to get used to. And of course, I'm in Thailand. Oh yeah, newsflash for my for all my listeners. I'm in Thailand right now, moving around Southeast Asia slowly, a week at a time. But being here, like without a truck, without an RV, without my normal people, my normal groups, without, I didn't even know if the podcast was going to keep going. I didn't know if my cell
Yeah,
phone was going to work right here. There's so many unknowns, and I was like, what am I going to do now? And especially like we really got into Thailand. We got so excited. The dollar went so far until we ran out of dollars.
hmm
And so like we're sitting in a hotel room, thankfully stay paid for and air conditioning, and I'm like, well, what, Aaron? You're the only one here. Well, Jill's there too, but like, Aaron, what do you want to talk about? And so I had to have these conversations with myself, and then something miraculous kind of happened. I was journaling and everything else, and I just started having poetry come to me again, like I did back in 2022. And I published a couple books and stuff, but I just started having poems hit me, like three a day, like boom, you know. And now, I'd read them, I'd load them into ChatGPT. It would align them with and see patterns across my entire life that I had never seen before, and I get to know myself better. So it's been interesting. I dropped all the dead weight and I picked up my own self and my own way and started having conversations with myself through my journals and my poetry. So that's been an interesting development.
That is an interesting development. I don't have that kind of quiet in my life currently. I don't think I ever will. But I understand what you mean about when writing hits you because as you know, I write music, I write songs, and
Yeah,
it seems like I've never been good at writing them if I was putting effort. I have to get like the 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 riff or whatever the I hate the word riff, but like the melody or whatever the backbone of the song will hit me musically, and then lyrics come right away, and
yeah.
it's like a big it's just like a big flash, and then it takes me like I write down everything stream of consciousness on index cards. My wife helps me do this. In fact, I'll be like, this feels like the
Yeah.
verse, and this feels like a bridge, and this feels like a chorus. So she'll transcribe it all on index cards for me, and then I play the music, and we go through the index cards and make it fit.
Wow.
And I do that. I'll do it. It's just compulsive, and we do it in the space of about like 4 hours or so.
Okay.
Sometimes half an hour. It just depends.
So you kind of have to find a way to get into that flow state, and you
Yeah.
get through it musically first, and then the
Hmm.
words seem to follow to fit the music.
Yep. I'll be like, that is something. Ding, 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 and then words will come.
That reminds me. I don't know if you ever heard of Rich Mullins.
Not that
He
I can
composed.
recall.
He's a Christian. He's a Christian artist. He composed a song, "Our God is an Awesome God." You might have heard it somewhere.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, that's like my least favorite Christian music. That Maranatha stuff. Oh my
oh well,
gosh. I get
he
it though. I know
was.
the guy now.
Yeah, but he was kind of interesting. I know a little bit about his life story, but he would write the whole song in music first, just the same
Right.
way, kind of similar to what you're describing. He would play out the whole song. He would love it, different parts, different melodies, and be like, then the words would just come to him. Um, but he was actually, I think, a Catholic monk or something. He took a vow of poverty and he took a vow of, I don't remember. He took a few vows. Anyway, he was kind of in that line. He never got married. He ended up dying, I think in his 30s, late 30s,
Hmm.
probably in a plane accident. I don't remember, a car accident or something like that. But it was just interesting to me because I didn't know. But it seems like that's something you have in common. I don't know if it's that way for all musical artists,
I don't think
but
so.
but
I
yeah,
know
there's
several people that do lyrics and then they like do say like they build the song in steps. So like my friend Mick, when he writes the song, like he'll be like, that's the bass line. And then he'll pair it with a drum track and then he'll come up with a melody and then the melody kind of makes the words shape around it. So
huh.
he does words like I think third. And then fourth is his process for lead and mixing and editing and stuff. So
Hmm. Okay. So there is some variety in how musicians kind of enter the flow state and how the creative process moves for them.
I think so.
In
'Cause,
your
well, I
experience.
also have, yeah, in my experience, and then my friend Sarah has a master's degree in musical composition, and she like has scored films and things like that. And I've never asked her what her process is, but now I'm gonna because now I'm interested. Because I wonder if because
Yeah.
she focused her whole education on that, if she does it in a more engineered or more like mathematical kind of way. Like because she understands theory way more than I do, right? So it's like she
Yeah.
understands what the building blocks of music are. So that'd be fun. See,
Yeah.
now you've given me a whole
Yeah.
new question to ask someone else.
Perfect. I love it. Yeah. Well, and I wanted to share my creative process too, because it's kind of changed over the years. Like I mentioned 2022. Me and Jill were on the road and we were visiting states for 9 months, and we did get 29 states visited. And I would have, and even before that, a short time before I even met Jill, I went on a trip to Washington State from Texas, and on the
Hmm.
way, I would have my phone up on a holder on the dashboard, and then like no music or anything playing, just driving, looking at the beautiful scenery, the horizon, sunrise, whatever, and all of a sudden a line would come to me, and then another line that rhymes with it, and that would be all I get. And so I'd enter it into my phone on the note program. I would even dictate it. I started to dictate it, and then I would go through when I stopped for the night or whatever, and I would manually kind of think out and power through the rest of the poem. It kind of, there was something to it. There was enough meat in those first two lines from my subconscious or the universe or whatever that like I could flesh out the rest of the poem just off what I heard come from that voice. And maybe I entered a flow state while I was driving. Maybe I was distracted enough to be able to hear myself. I don't know. Theories abound. But now it's kind of different in this new, I call it the quiet song right now, because I've subtracted so many things from my life, and it's like I'm just sitting here waiting, like intentionally, like sitting in a chair, no electronic devices around me, maybe my phone sitting on a table upside down where I don't see the screen, and I'm like, what we're talking about, the first question, what am I even doing with my life? What is going on with me right now? And then like I'm like, I don't know. Maybe if I sit here and listen, I'll hear something. And I'm listening and I get a thought. And then that turns into a poem. And so that's how it works now. Like it's being undistracted and it's being tuned in to listening that is kind of opening it up. So it's kind of different. It seems like a reward for cutting off and pruning all the dead weight, I suppose I could say, in my life. Does that make
Hmm.
sense?
It does, yeah. When you remove distractions, you increase your focus, and that's normal. Honestly, it's normal. Just like when people have extreme anxiety or they're going through mental health crises, one of the first things you can do to help that person is to reduce stimuli. You know,
Hmm.
take the distractions, take the things out, and people tend to be more calm and be more focused. So
Maybe that's
yeah,
why
I
gas
get it.
masks put you to sleep.
Yeah, that could be.
Because I wore a gas mask. I was part of well, we did training in the desert when I was in the Marine Corps, and we all had to wear gas masks, and we had this vehicle cleanoff station, and we simulated the vehicle being covered in uh, nuclear, biological, or chemical agents, and we practiced washing off the vehicle at the station, and then it would go away. We're in the middle of the desert, and then in a few minutes or maybe an hour, another vehicle would come up and we would clean that vehicle off too. But in that hour, like you're laying there and you got to keep your gas mask on, and you're just like you find a place to sit and lean back on your bag or something, and you hear your breath in the gas mask, like Darth Vader almost. Not as sinister.
Sure.
It's just this light sound because it the when you suck in air through the gas mask, it sucks it in over the visor, over the windows, the eye eyelets of the gas mask. So it removes the fog or the moisture that gathers. So the constant flow of air flowing over that keeps your vision clear. Well, it also makes it so you hear your breath really well. And so, like, I swear to you, I don't care who the person is, you put a gas mask on with nothing else to do for 5 minutes and you're out. And we were extremely susceptible because that was before cell phones. That was in the
Yeah.
90s. So you didn't have nothing. I mean, you could look at the desert. You
Yeah.
could look at the desert and you could feel hot, and then you just like 5 seconds later, like 5 minutes, you're like out like a light. It's something about hearing your own breath in that quiet that just is so calming and relaxing. Maybe it's a reassurance at a subconscious level. I'm alive. Everything's okay. I'm still breathing. Okay, well,
Yeah.
I'll go to sleep. you know.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. If you feel safe, if you feel secure, it's easier to fall asleep for sure. And then,
yeah.
hypoxia probably has something to do with it a little bit because all gas masks are going to restrict your O2 intake just a little bit, and that'll make you just a little tired.
Hmm.
So,
Well, and of
I mean,
course,
that
in the
makes
Marine
sense.
Corps, we went for runs with our gas mask. We did exercises and push-ups with our gas mask on. Played football with gas masks. So
Sure.
we tried to train to be stronger and need less oxygen. I mean, I guess it worked. I'm still alive.
Yeah. I mean, here we are. Nothing kills you. And you spent your full 20 some odd years in the Marine Corps, right? Was
That's
it a flat
correct.
20 or was it? Yes, 20.
20 years and 8 months, actually. Yeah.
Right. Until your terminal orders came in, your separation orders. That's fun.
Yeah.
And remembering, of
Yeah. And
course, that you were in the Corps for so long made me think about something else too. Like it's a very common correlation for soldiers and to be poets. No joke. You can look at like so many things from, I mean, ranging from World War One and or the Civil War, the Revolutionary War, all the way up through the Rhodesian Bush Wars, and currently in Afghanistan, Iraq, and all that stuff. It's very common to find poets and fossils. It's very common.
yeah. I wonder why that is.
I don't know. I mean, you could get really philosophical. Would be like somebody's close proximity always to life and death circumstances can bring about creativity in people where none dwelt before. But I mean, I think honestly, what it is that in the long periods of waiting in the military, that probably, especially with nothing else to do but wait on the orders of someone else, that your brain kind of just switches off a little bit, and you can find that flow of prose more easily.
Hmm. Well, when I asked you
But it's
that question, I got a few answers back in my brain. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, but like I mean, all things exist at the same time. So where I say, yeah, it's probably the long periods of waiting. That's I think it's a combination of all those things. I think it's like, yeah, you've got a lot of proximity to hazard, and you've got a lot of proximity to life and death at times, which makes your brain focus on things that you would like to write about or like to talk about, or like like over and over you see in letters in the Civil War, and while the bullets were flying past me and whatnot, all I could think about was you and the kids in our sweet home in wherever, and they wax lyrical about it almost like it's almost like
Yeah.
combat is a a, a precursor to prose.
Yeah. Well, for me, I'm definitely particularly suited for it because I was raised on old Baptist hymns. I was raised on hymns from 100 years ago. You know,
Mm-hmm.
my dad was very musical. He was in different quartets all the time. I started singing at the age of 14 at church, offertory songs. I had to memorize them and stand up, and my arms would go numb at first. But so I guess music and memorizing music has been a part of my life for a long time. I was writing poetry in high school. As soon
Right.
as I learned what it was, and then I wrote poetry earlier in the Marine Corps. But yeah, going back to your point, I do think there is something about the military, about being so close to death. You know, we had a saying in the Marine Corps, which I'm sure you've heard everywhere. It's like, when it's your time, when it's your time. Another thing is, you don't hear the one that gets you. So if you
Right.
hear it, you're still alive. and if
That's
you're
true.
still alive, you got orders, and so that's a
Yeah.
different perspective. You come back to America and it's like, I don't know, I feel like I'm dead and I'm alive at the same time, and I'm miserable and I'm depressed and I'm sad, and I'm not saying I feel those ways, but you come into an environment where a lot of people feel those ways, or anxious, and you know and kind of in different states, and they don't realize that they're alive. They don't
Right.
realize the potential they have. You know, I mean, you can do this activity with anybody. It's like, if you're not grateful for any part of your body, just tape it down for an hour. Whether it's your pinky finger or your big toe or what, probably not your big toe as well. You could probably get around on that. Shoes are pretty much like that already. But any other part of your body, tape your arm to your side or your legs together, and you're not going to be able to function. You're going to learn to value whatever it is that you lost for a little bit, because that's something veterans learn too. They lose their limbs or they lose a limb, and they come back. And I mean, I have a podcast with a guy. He was in the Marine Corps, but he also got out and he was a cop, and he had a got run off the road on a motorcycle as a cop, and he lost a leg, he lost his sight, he's now blind, and now since he became blind and lost a leg, now he has a what do you call it,
Like a
um,
prosthetic.
prosthetic leg. Yes, thank you for that. I wasn't able to grab it. But so he rides bulls and he surfs every week. He's more courageous now that he's been so close to death. He had a near-death experience as well. He's a few episodes. I think episode like 16 of season 2. But man, his
Hmm.
story is so inspirational, because I look at myself and I'm like, and I think most people hopefully look at themselves and they're like, what am I doing with my leg? What am I doing with my sight? And he's doing so much without them.
Yeah.
So yeah,
People
we
are
get a little
very
closer.
adaptable.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. Well, that's a good
Yeah.
rabbit hole. Thank you. I think we explored that one adequately.
Good.
Are there any other questions that we're waiting and looking for answers to?
Yeah. Why do I look so much more like Moses on a selfie cam? Wait. That's not really a question. Of course, I'm just kidding around. But I don't know. I think there's always more stuff to explore and figure out, I think. And well, I mean, that's part of the process of being alive, right? Like, just the human mind tends either towards inquisitiveness or dullness. And
Yeah,
and I'm not saying anything is better than the other, because a lot of people that live boring lives are very happy, and
mm,
it just happens. Um,
yeah,
people can people can be content without being inquisitive or wide-eyed, So, but I guess one of the things is just to not be happy with contentedness. You want to push a little bit harder. You want to
yeah,
go a little bit further. You want to do a little bit more.
yeah. Well, I don't know. I wonder if you find chaos, if you don't find chaos, if chaos finds you.
That's
Chaos
probably true.
is the
Yeah.
edge of the unknown. So if you don't go exploring the unknown, I think the unknown comes to you in uncomfortable ways, but I don't know. I mean, that seems to be the way it is in my life.
Yeah.
Challenge
I
myself or be
get that.
challenged by something. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Grow or die.
Yeah.
That's actually funny, because it brings to mind, like, I used to read, I still read a lot, but I read books like voraciously. And one of the things that stuck with me, it's so funny, was this, it's a book from the Star Trek original series universe, and it's a book seriously about Klingons playing a live action version of chess, and uh, they talk a lot about stuff, but they try to sum up like this Klingon philosophy is like you have structures that grow or structures that die, and that always made it made sense to me. Either you either grow or you stagnate. You either grow or you die. Like a it's an interesting, and it came from such a silly place that, and that's what we talk about chaos or disorganized thought. Sometimes things just come to you from the weirdest, silliest, dumbest place, like a Star Trek book of all things, to
Yeah.
teach you a life lesson about growth.
Well, I love the dark humor of it. Grow or die. It's so
Right.
Klingon, and it's everything we love Klingons for. You know.
Yeah. Exactly. Like it's such a cartoonish philosophy, but it in some ways kind of rings true.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I guess it's supported by our neurology too. Our nerves, like neurons that fire together, wire together, and and they compact, and they now one nerve does the work of two nerves because they're wired together. One nerve does two different things, and then a lot of them wire together. Every time you throw a baseball, for instance, like nerves for your hand and nerves for your wrist and your forearm and your shoulder. They're all kind of, the more you practice, the more they fire together, the quicker and smoother and the further you throw your pitch or whatever.
Right.
So, but I don't, yeah, it does seem like the unlikely die option usually, from what I've seen, is comfort. Like and I think that's a trend I've noticed among people is like comfort has become more important one of the high priority things for most people. Comfort. I used to say like, don't give somebody a lazy boy because that's just going to then if your wife gives you a lazy boy, then she's trying to kill you. Slowly over many years. But I'm just joking. I don't know. You're probably sitting in a lazy boy right now. Sorry, no
No,
offense.
no, I'm sitting on my love seat. I don't like reclining chairs. I sit in the weirdest possible way for a big old dude like me to sit. Because I don't really sit. I get on the like I think if I can show you, I can. See how like I get up on there and I tuck my legs under me and I've got a foot up or whatever. Like I always kind of just fold into the corner of the couch.
Hmm. Okay.
The only time I like to recline is
Does
if I'm
that
gonna
help with
sleep.
posture?
I don't know. I feel like it does. Like my back doesn't hurt and stuff. Like I tend to keep my upper body pretty straight.
Okay.
Camera angles notwithstanding, make me look like I'm slouching backward, but I'm just like my spine is straight.
Well, that's important.
Yeah, I sit in just the weirdest possible way, and I don't get it. Like it's just how I feel comfortable, but it's turned into such a strange thing because like I don't like I said I don't sit like you would in a chair. I don't put my feet on the floor. I put my feet up here on the cushion with me all the time. But I
Well,
don't know.
thank you for
I don't
that interesting fact about yourself.
know. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm goofy. That Saturday morning and I don't have to work, so I'm like, oh, I'm gonna drink coffee and chat with my cousins. Good time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I did. Yeah, I did introduce you as my cousin. Yeah.
So how
Well,
long
going
Thailand?
back. Go ahead. How
So how
long in
long Thailand?
Thailand?
Yeah.
60 days is what we're planning on. We've already
Hmm.
got tickets to fly to Malaysia next,
Good.
which is south of Thailand. So we're in we're in Chiang Mai we've been in Chiang Mai now. We're in our second week. Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, we'll move up to another city north further north in Chiang Mai. It's called Pai, Pai, and we're going to
Hmm.
be there for a week. We've already got like a hotel locked on. We're going to explore that area and eat out there and check it out. Hopefully, there's more nature, so hopefully we get in nature a little bit more. Go on some hikes and runs on the hard dirt trails and stuff like that. And then we're coming back to Chiang Mai for I think a couple more weeks, and then we're flying down to Phuket, which is like a beach town. But I don't know how long we'll stay there because it's supposed to be really expensive there. But and then from there we go to another beach town a little bit more inland called Grabby, Grabby, something like that. Grabby, maybe. And then from there we're going to go to Malaysia. And we don't have anything charted in Malaysia yet. We're just going to hit the ground and run around, see what happens.
Good. That's awesome. That's a really good time.
Yeah, you want to talk about chaos. So, I mean, going to a place you've never been with a people group. Well, I've been to Thailand before, but not to this part of Thailand. Um, and, getting to know the culture, getting to know some people. We just had dinner with a group of expats. I told you that earlier, but for the sake of my listeners, people from all different countries are in Thailand. um, I had a nice conversation with a guy from Israel tonight for a couple of hours,
Hmm.
and that was a lot of fun. I invited him to be on my podcast. I'm working on some of them to be on my podcast as guests, so we'll see how that works out. Something to look forward to.
Yeah, that is something to look forward to.
Yeah,
And there'll be, like that's going to be an interesting time and interesting things to talk about. You get some multicultural answers to be good for you. Well, good for the podcast, really. Good for everybody.
good for everybody, right? Exactly. Well, I want to think about another question for you. What
Sure.
is something about you that I may not know so I can get to know you a little bit better?
That you may not know. Well, um, I tend to be a pretty open person, so I'm trying to figure out what I might not have told you about.
Mm,
Um,
no problem. And no pressure
I
either.
am,
So if you don't,
I am, I am kind of worthless with technology.
oh, really?
Yeah, if my computer doesn't do the thing I want it to do, I have no idea how to change that. I have to talk to IT like 3 times a week. I'm horrifyingly
Okay.
bad at that stuff. Um, and what's funny is I used to be good. Out of the '90s and the early 2000s, I was like super, super duper into computers and building stuff and whatnot. And then I just got entirely away from it, and I was like, oh, this was a phase that I'm just not into anymore. And now everything has progressed to the point where I have no bloody idea.
Yeah.
It's why I use Apple
Well, you
products all the
saw,
time. I don't.
yeah. Well, you saw my prowess. Like I was like, your camera's not working. Well, let's shut it off and turn it back on and see if that works. And like magic,
Right.
it did.
I'm not even that clever most of the time. I just hit the button until I'm like, why is this not working? Until somebody says, hey, did you try turning it off? I'm like, oh, okay, let's do that. You know, like how funny
Yeah.
that is. But I've never been good at that. Well, I mean, as an adult, like as a fully formed adult, I've never been good at it. So there's
Hmm.
something I'm sure you didn't know because I feel like I
Yeah.
try to look competent and confident about things, and that's one thing I just avoid.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. I didn't know that at all. Well, too, there's this interesting phenomenon that I'm uncovering um, about my childhood. So, as a child, as the oldest,
Yeah, Saturday.
as the oldest son, grandson, great grandson, probably great 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 grandson, whatever, um, I never really thought about.
Sorry, I'm just
I
moving
really never.
locations. My son is being loud.
No,
That you never thought about.
no, no. I never thought about anybody else really. I mean, I knew everybody's name. I knew you were my cousin Josh, and you were younger than me, and everybody, I guess, kind of followed me around. My brothers too. Like, well, and I guess that's good. I didn't have to parent anybody. I didn't have to raise anybody like so many people do when their parents don't work out right or in the way that they should or whatever, or they break up and they get divorced, and some of the parenting roles fall on the oldest child. Luckily, I guess that never fell on me. So what I'm finding is there's a lot of stories that I didn't pay attention to and things that happened, and I didn't really know my brothers very well, and I didn't really know, and even less my cousins like yourself. And so well, I've gotten to know you in the last 10 years or so by coming out to visit so often, for the most part, and I love you to death. But I'm realizing, like, in my childhood, I don't have anybody else's perspective. Like, I don't know what was going on for Josh and Leslie. I don't know what's going on for Tim or Ben. And if I
Hmm.
did know, I didn't want to know. It was kind of like I'm doing my own thing. I'm charting a course. I'm doing my things. And I did good things. I didn't do anything bad, but it's just interesting phenomenon that I never really got to know. And for so much of my life, even in the Marine Corps, like when I drove around, me and Jill drove around, visited other states. I visited Marines that I served with. I didn't know where they were from. I didn't know hardly anything about them. Maybe we deployed together one time, and maybe they were a Lance Corporal E3 and I was a E7. I didn't hang out with them. I didn't do anything with them, but I was
Yeah,
kind of a good
culturally,
guy,
that
so they
yeah,
remembered me, and so
yeah,
yeah, so it's interesting.
that is interesting. It is funny when you think about like how you move through the lives of other people and don't know that you were doing it. You know,
And don't even know who they were, you know?
no, no idea. Yeah, I've met people that you talk to or you meet them on the bus because I used to ride Greyhounds quite a bit when I was younger. But you meet somebody on the bus, you talk to them or whatever, and maybe you influence them in some way. More likely you didn't, and that person that you will never see again is now dead or the president or rich or poor or something or whatever, and you have no idea. Um, and I have nostalgic wonder about people sometimes that I've met on the bus, and I've always successfully resisted the urge to try and find them. I think the mystery is more fun than figuring it out
Hmm.
because I have
I
a good
like that.
memory for names, and I can remember the names of people on the bus that I've interacted with, and can remember that 20 some odd years later.
Yeah.
In one case, almost 30 years later, and I can say honestly, I'm like, yeah, I wonder what they're up to, and then I never check because I don't really want to know. It's more fun to speculate.
Hmm. Okay. Wow. Yeah, and to bring it back around for me, like there's so much potential for stories. And I don't know if it's something about my age or maybe because I got so many good stories, but I'm coming to discover that everybody has just as many well, has a lot of good stories similar to me. And so, for
Yeah,
yourself as an example, I'm sure you've got stories that I've never heard before. I've got stories
that
probably that you've never heard before.
that's absolutely true because I haven't told most people anything about all the circus adventures I had all over
Wow.
all over Canada. So,
Do you
I
feel
mean,
comfortable
yeah, I get
talking
it.
about that now?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I'll talk about anything. I'm pretty transparent. I just said it doesn't always come up. So, I guess I could start with. I saw an ad in the paper in Rapid City for the circus that was hiring people, and I showed up. And
Wow.
they said, "Can you get into Canada?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm a landed immigrant. I have a permanent visa. It's fine." And they said, "Any other qualifications?" I'm like, "Well, I can pick up heavy things and put them back down again," which I'm sure is
Yeah.
part of what you were looking for. And then I said, "And I'm bilingual. Like, if we're in Canada, I speak French. It's fine." And so they hired me, and we went to Canada. And I started off just doing labor, like helping put all the stuff up, help take it all down, hauling the giant 60-gallon trash cans of elephant waste out, like all the things that we did. And then later on, they found out that I was pretty good at throwing knives and hatchets. And so I ended up having a intermission act. Like we did knife throwing during the intermission with a couple of the clowns. We popped balloons. We did stuff like that. And then later on, they found out that I rode motorcycles, so they said, "Well, let's try you out on this." And so I rode motorcycles in like the big steel globe of doom or globe of death, whatever they called it. So I did the
Yeah.
motorcycle thing, and I did knife throwing things, and I don't know. We went all over Canada. We went from like all the way from like southern Ontario and through Manitoba and Saskatchewan and Alberta, British Columbia, and then through the states in Washington. We actually played the Tacoma Dome in Washington, and that was cool. And then we went from the Tacoma Dome in Washington through little towns in Washington, and then through Montana. And then the
Huh.
season was ending around Missoula, and I decided not to go with them to Vegas to do all the in between season maintenance.
Yeah.
And that's when I stayed in Missoula for a few weeks, and then I took the bus down to Salt Lake City. But the stories about Canada were so fun because we were in so many little towns. We were playing in like little towns like Kamloops, British Columbia, or like Notre Dame de Duke in Manitoba, or just little towns, Cassavan, Saskatchewan, little places. And I don't know, it felt like really homey to me. It was always a lot of fun. Like the one thing sticks out in particular: restaurants that make their own ketchup. They had little jars of ketchup. They made it themselves. They didn't buy it in. Um, there's a lot of crazy things about being up there. Which I could give you one story about British Columbia that was a lot of fun. I was in British Columbia. We were at Vancouver on the island. I went down. We had a couple of days layover, so I went over to the ABC and I bought 2 gallons of Carlo Rossi Burgundy, like the big glass bottles of cheap wine. And I had a guitar that I picked up in a pawn shop in Ontario somewhere. And I went down to the waterfront, like the old piers, and I just started drinking wine and playing guitar, like out in public, just hanging out. And then people started coming around. There's a couple of tourists came by, and um, at some point, somebody went over to. There was like a seafood shack, like one of those food carts. Like it's a building, but it's a very small open building. And somebody ran
Yeah.
over there and came back with a bunch of like styrofoam cups, and we started all sharing out wine. It turned into this giant party on this pier. Um,
Huh.
and yeah, so I was playing guitar, and then like some other street busker comes over with his guitar, started playing, and somebody else went to the ABC and came back with more beers and some wine, and a couple of cops, a couple of RCMP cops showed up to check out what was going on and determined that we were harmless and left. And so those two police officers, I remember really specifically, it was a man and a woman, and they came back after their shift. So they had shift change and came to the party on the waterfront. So we just had this giant party on the waterfront. It was a really cool experience. And it all started because I was bored and I just wanted to drink wine and play guitar in front of the ocean.
Wow. Wow.
It was a it was a
Thank you
neat
so
time.
much for sharing that story.
Yeah, no, anytime.
You
I
make so
love that.
much more sense now. Like, what age were you?
I was I was somewhere just after 18.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was 18 through 19, I believe, like part of 18 and into 19 when I was with the circus because I got to Utah in, geez, like September when I was 19. The year I was 19 in September, I got down into Utah. So yeah, I was 18 at least for that. At that period, I was 18 for sure.
Wow. What a great experience. Like, that's, I mean, I didn't realize it until you said it, but like, that's like a secret dream of mine. It's like, you hear about kids that run away and go join the circus or whatever. At least in movies maybe of my childhood, but it's like, yeah, you're as a boy child, I was absolutely enamored with elephants and clowns and circus. Went a couple times, and yeah, had a great time. It was fun and entertaining. Yeah, you were like a fun missionary. You're going around just spreading fun everywhere you went.
Yeah, it feels like that, but it was fun. Like the circus was a good time. I did come to learn that I don't like elephants very much.
Oh yeah,
Um, well, they're giant, they're smelly, and they can be mean, and they're just, good lord, they're a pain. And if they decide that they're going to do something or not do something, there's nothing you can do about it personally. You're just, that's it. And I think that's one of the first times in life that you really run into something that, the immovable object or the unstoppable force kind of thing. And when you're around an
yeah.
elephant, you're like, oh, so shit, that's what that means. Like, like I have no influence over this creature at all.
Yeah,
None. And even like an elephant trainer will tell you that if that elephant decides that it wants to kill you, you're just dead. Like it doesn't. They can. It's like you swatting a mosquito for an elephant to kill a person, and
yeah.
they can be crazy mean. And the other animals that we had, like mostly was elephants and big cats. And working with the big cats, that's another thing I'll tell you. Like you don't slip up with big cats. You
Yeah.
don't get you don't get opportunities to make mistakes with them.
You don't get second chances?
No, you don't. Like yeah, I was always very careful. You always walk down the middle of the rows. Just like when I was working in a prison, the same rules apply. You walk down the middle because if you get too close one way or the other, something gonna get you.
Yeah.
And if it's a big cat, that's bad. So I don't know. Big cats were fine, but yeah, you don't get mistakes. You don't get second chances. Like if you slip up next to the tiger pen, that's the end of the day.
Your life changes forever if you are still alive.
Yeah, if you live, it ain't gonna be safe.
Yeah.
Mostly
Oh
what
my
happens to
gosh.
people with big cats is they lose limbs. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's gone. They're chewing on it. Like I need to get it out
Yeah.
and get it put back on. Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, you lost it. Sorry, bud. You're gonna people gonna be calling you people gonna be calling you Hook for the rest of your life.
Oh my God. Oh. Well, you know what? It's, it's time to go. Thank you so much, Josh, for joining me. I learned some stuff about you. I love you a little bit more than I did when we started talking.
Well, I'm glad. Thank you for having me on, and enjoy your night. I know it's late there.
Yeah, yeah, and thank you for my listeners for tuning in to this interesting episode with me and my cousin. Uh, Gosh, I didn't expect to get a story about him joining the circus at 18 years old. What a great story. It was such a good time. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week.